Mangwanani Malelepo Vukenjani Kekpa Savannah there, Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, where your day begins informed, perhaps inspired, but certainly connected to the continent and beyond. In today's stories, history is made at the Vatican as Cardinal Robert Prevost becomes Pope Leo XIV, the first American ever elected to lead the Catholic Church. Meanwhile, tensions rise in Mali as citizens protest an extended military regime, and the U.S. cuts $50 billion in health aid to Zambia. We also bring you Julius Malema's fiery response after a UK visa denial and rising calls in Zimbabwe for a probe into mogul Wicknell Chivayo's wealth, plus your full Namibian weather and economic roundup right here. Stay with us on Africa Good Morning, and by Namibian we mean the Namibia report will be right after the top stories. But for now, we take a break and get back to it. In our top stories, Cardinal Robert Prevost has been elected as the 267th Pope and the first from the United States, taking the papal name Pope Leo XIV. The announcement came after a centuries-old ritual with 133 cardinals participating in a conclave held at the Vatican to choose the new leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics. The decision was symbolized by the traditional white smoke rising from the Sistine Chapel, signaling that a new pontiff had been chosen. Pope Leo XIV, aged 69, was greeted by cheering crowds as he appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, marking his first public appearance as Pope. His papal name suggests a continuity with the doctrines of his predecessors. The conclave began with cardinals entering the Sistine Chapel for a period of seclusion, guided by prayers and hymns to elect a new pope following the death of Pope Francis at the age of 88. Next story. As Mali's military-led government proposes extending Colonel Assimi Goïta's rule to 2030 and suspends political parties, citizens are rising in protest, signaling a growing rejection of authoritarianism nearly 5 years after Goïta seized power in 2020 in a coup. Once seen as a liberator promising peace and elections, Goïta has instead tightened control, postponed democratic transitions, and allied with Russian Wagner mercenaries in a heavy-handed fight against armed groups. On May the 3rd, mass protests erupted in Bamako, fueled by outrage over political repression, arrests of opposition leaders, and deteriorating security for civilians, particularly in rural and ethnic minority areas. Analysts warn that although recent military victories like the recapture of Kidal have bolstered Goïta's support among some, the cost in civilian lives and democratic erosion is high. As Mali, alongside Burkina Faso and Niger, exits ECOWAS and forms the Alliance of Sahel States, hopes for a return to constitutional order dim, especially with signs of possible mutinies, violent counter-rallies, and rising civilian casualties in the crossfire of armed group retaliation and military offensives. The United States has suspended $50 million in aid to Zambia's health sector due to the government's failure to stop the systemic theft of donated drugs and medical supplies. U.S. Ambassador Michael Gonzalez said the move, though difficult, is necessary to protect American taxpayer funds and ensure aid reaches patients in need. A year-long U.S. Embassy investigation found over 2,000 pharmacies selling stolen medical products, with 95% offering drugs originally donated by the U.S. The investigation also revealed the involvement of items supplied by the Zambian government, the Global Fund, and other donors. Despite presenting evidence and offering expert help last year, the U.S. says the Zambian government has failed to act meaningfully, only targeting low-level individuals. Here is the ambassador.
Don't just go into a random shipping container that is selling commodities. Find that they're selling something that is stolen and arrest the 15-year-old kid behind the counter. Because I guarantee you that kid didn't buy the medication. Enforcement investigation to find where are stolen medicines being sold from. Who owns those pharmacies? Call them in. Where are they buying from? How did the person selling obtain the medications? I'm not a law enforcement officer. I do have U.S. federal law enforcement officers based here in my embassy who I pleaded with government authorities. Please take advantage of them to help you design such an effort to respond. A day and a half later, I think it was a Friday, so around April 5th or so of last year, we saw a great headline. Zambia police go in and they've arrested, I think it was 16 people for selling stolen medicines. So, I heard all the right things. I saw a great headline that suggested action was being taken. Over the next month and a half or so, there were two more similar headlines. I think one up in Copperbelt and one in Southern, with the same pattern. The 15-year-old kids behind the counter were arrested. Easy, small fish were picked up.
South African opposition leader Julius Malema has criticized the UK after being denied a visa to attend the Africa Together conference at the University of Cambridge on 10 May. Malema, who leads the Economic Freedom Fighters, said the UK's refusal lacked justification and was an attempt to silence dissenting voices. The UK High Commissioner to South Africa, Anthony Phillipson, acknowledged in a letter to the EFF that the Home Office failed to process the application in time, citing recent UK bank holidays and procedural delays. Malema said the delegation was assured the matter would be resolved, only to receive a regret letter shortly before departure. The Home Office has agreed to refund the application fee but declined to comment further. The EFF claimed the delay was deliberate. Malema, known for his sharp criticism of Western powers and calls for land reform in South Africa, called the outcome unacceptable as well as spineless. Now in the last of our top stories. In Zimbabwe, former legislator and opposition activist Amos Chivayo has called for an urgent investigation into controversial businessman Wicknell Chivayo's source of wealth amid growing public outrage over his extravagant spending and alleged links to state corruption. Chivayo argues that it is long overdue for authorities to scrutinize how Chivayo, who has no known large-scale business operations, is able to finance a lavish lifestyle that includes gifting luxury vehicles to artists like Ja Praiser and religious figures such as the widow of Zayoja founder Ezekiel Guti. The businessman, previously acquitted in a high-profile fraud case before the ruling was overturned by the Supreme Court, is also accused of securing questionable multi-million-dollar government tenders. Despite widespread concern, there has been no official inquiry or arrest, prompting critics to accuse Zimbabwe's leadership of protecting elites while the majority of citizens suffer from deepening economic inequality and mismanagement of national resources. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. We're going to swing into the weather just before we dive into the Namibian stories from the week.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
A news story stemming from Namibia. Motor Vehicle Accident Fund CEO Rosalia Martins Hausiku confirmed that the country has seen a 20% hike in pedestrian-related road accidents. She has called on the public to practice extra caution when using the road.
I have realized that there's been a surge in the cases of pedestrian-related cases. So since the beginning of the year until yesterday, 6th of May, we have recorded an increase of 22% in pedestrian-related fatalities. So that is 66 people have died since 1st of January until today, compared to 54 last year. That's in terms of fatalities. And then when we look at pedestrian-related crashes, we are standing at 402 crashes. As of yesterday, we can say to date, pedestrian-related crashes, 402. Last year, 372. Now, what's worrisome is the behavior of the pedestrians. Most of these cases, it's when the pedestrians are trying to cross the road. They do not take time to look at whether there are oncoming vehicles. They're just crossing the roads, and that's how they are colliding with the vehicles. There are isolated incidences where it's actually the vehicle that goes to the pedestrian, but in the majority of the cases, we want to really get the pedestrians' attention to really look for oncoming vehicles before they cross the roads. Now, the regions that are predominantly affected are Comas and Ohangwena regions, which recorded the highest with 11 fatalities each, and then followed by Oshikoto, Omsati, Oshana, Zambezi, and Kavango East. It's very interesting because usually the regions with pedestrian problem, it's usually Comas.
As we continue, a total of 2,804 students are graduating from the Namibia University of Science and Technology, NUST, this May, marking the largest graduating class in the institution's history and a growth of over 40% since its first class 10 years ago. During the ceremony, Vice-Chancellor Dr. Errold Naumab dedicated a heartfelt moment to honor the late Clayton Lee Manze, who was posthumously awarded a bachelor's degree in accounting after sadly passing away on 22 March this year. In his address, Dr. Naumab urged students to seek help when needed and not suffer in silence.
Towards gender parity in higher education. However, ladies and gentlemen, you would agree with me that the bar in gender parity has been set very high recently in Namibia. Thanks to Her Excellency, Mkhaneti Bonanti Beytor, President of the Republic of Namibia, taking the reins of leadership of our Republic, but also the leadership of her Vice President, Honorable Betboy. And for us in the education sector, the same is our truth. Thanks to the leadership of our Honorable Minister of Education, Innovation, Youth, Sports, and Culture. We can get used to this long name for our ministry. These are but only 3 of many of our distinguished female members of our cabinet. Indeed, this is a historic alignment that underscores the power of inclusive leadership. To our female graduates in this distinguished class of 2025, you stand on the shoulders of trailblazers and you are poised to lead with distinction. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, today we confer qualifications in disciplines that are critical to shaping Namibia's future. As we reflect on our journey over the past decade, The growth of the institution is evident not only in academic excellence, but also in the increasing number of graduates. In reflecting back, 10 years ago, 2015, we graduated 1,893 students in a particular May graduation ceremony. A decade later, this number has grown by 48% to 2,804.
Bank of Namibia hosted university students from NAST, UNAM and IUM Economic and Investment Societies insightful presentations on the bank's functions and mandate. Franz Amakali, Senior Officer, Information and Knowledge Management, explains more.
At the Bank of Namibia, as part of our public outreach strategy, we reach out to the communities that include our learners at high schools and university students. So today we have an open access day where we are taking through university students from UNAM, IUM and NAST. These are students from the Economic Society, the Investment Society and Accounting Society. They are here today to learn and just to have a practical orientation of what the bank's mandate and operations are. We have technical experts from the bank that is trained central bankers that are taking them through the practical know-how of how central banking is managed and various topics on investments, economic research, financial stability, the role of the central bank, monetary policy, the inflation, how it works, being presented to learners, and we also have open dialogues where they then ask questions, where they have issues that they need to understand. We also have in their midst lecturers that are their lecturers at school, who are just to observe how they are learning and how they will be asking questions. So this is not a once-off event, it's a practical session that we always have with university students and also learners. We also have other platforms where we engage university students either through the tertiary institutions learning challenge or debate challenge, where we invite university students to also just debate about topics around the economy and so on.
World Bank country representative for Namibia, Mariana Siresela, has hailed Namibia for adopting the methodology for assessing procurement systems, MAPS, to measure the effectiveness of its public procurement spending. The World Bank and the Ministry of Finance launched the MAPS report, which will provide insight into the effectiveness of Namibia's public procurement expenditure.
Effective procurement systems ensure the efficient use of public resources, foster transparency, and promote fair competition. In Namibia, public procurement represents a significant portion of government expenditure, making it a critical area to consider for reform and enhancement. The MAPS report provides a robust framework for evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of procurement systems, identifying areas for improvements and recommending reform measures for an efficient, transparent public procurement system. By adopting MAPS, Namibia is taking proactive steps towards aligning its procurement system with international best standards, thereby enhancing accountability and trust. This work complements the World Bank area support to the procurement policy unit of the Ministry of Finance in evaluating e-procurement readiness and formulating a new procurement strategy.
Irongomed is a leading distributor working in partnership with NewMed and WestMed to meet the comprehensive needs of the Namibian healthcare sector. As a partner pursuing sustainable global healthcare, we offer industry-leading medical solutions through our key focus areas, which include pharmaceuticals, orthopedics, ophthalmology, surgical devices and capital equipment, as well as a well-established scientific laboratory division. In healthcare, Irangomed is committed to making a difference. What about you?
In economic news, Xinfeng Investments Namibia, a subsidiary of China's Tangshan Xinfeng Thermal Group, is advancing rapidly toward completing its lithium processing plant, with investments nearing 800 million Namibian dollars. Since 2022, the company has created 300 jobs, 160 permanent and 140 temporary, at its mines in Omaruru and US. Spokesperson Hardin Fredericks highlighted the advanced dense medium separation technology in the plant, one of only 3 in Africa, praised for its efficiency and low water usage. The US open pit mine, though not exporting since final approvals in late 2023, has supported rigorous ore testing that informed the construction of a purpose-fit facility. Xinfeng is committed to Namibia's local beneficiation directive, emphasizing the distinct quality of Namibian lithium ore. With a 15-year mine lifespan forecast and an environmental clearance certificate secured, the company partners with Longfire Investment and has supported community efforts, including donations to Martin Luther High School and food parcels for the elderly in Omaruru. And in the last of our stories, we are staying with Namibia. The Namibia Revenue Agency, NAMRA, and the General Administration of Customs of China signed a memorandum of understanding. Now, this marks a commitment to enhance cooperation, focusing on areas such as capacity building and streamlined customs procedures aligned with international standards. This development is expected to foster more efficient trade and strengthen the economic relationship between Namibia and China.
In our respective nation, a memorandum of understanding of this nature to promote cooperation and partnership between our two institutions is key for economic development of our countries.
那么此次纳米比亚税务局与中国海关将就双方的一个合作进行合作谅解备忘录的签署。那么此次将进一步推动双方在合作以及未来进一步的合作方面有着重要的意义。
Our founding president and father of the Namibian nation, Dr. Sam Nujoma, may his soul rest in peace.
DSTV 285, GoTV 25, OneUp2.com and NTV Africa on YouTube is where you can find Africa Good Morning. It's been a pleasure being with you throughout the week. On Monday, we focused on Zambia with Mike Sichula. Tuesday, it was Zimbabwe with Talent Gore. Wednesday, it was Botswana with Rorisang Mohojwe. Thursday, it was South Africa with Ari Hohad. And Friday, we zoned in on Namibia. From me, Ashwin Berry, and the Africa Good Morning team, see you on Monday. Sirajaganaka.